Vendor for the month is Don Niday, and he's the owner and operator of the Iron Creek Shops. You may recall that Don was our clinician back in December of last year. Don has been a model railroader since 1958, having modeled in HO, HON3, ON3, and now he's specializing in F and FN3. If you've been attending the narrow gauge conventions lately, you'll have seen his work. He has a habit of walking away with the first place locomotive flags in both geared and rod categories. Don makes his home in Knoxville, Tennessee. And with that, let me introduce you to Don, but I will be projecting his presentation from my place. So we'll get this set up and you're ready to go, Don.
Thanks, Pete. Hi, everybody. I know several of you, at least. This is actually a color shot of my ad that I always put in the Narrow Gauge Gazette. But I think it's unique about it is it really explains in short what we're all about here and what I'm trying to do with F scale, which I'm one of the co-creators of F scale. And mainly because when I got into large scale trains, I realized quickly that it didn't differentiate between scale and gauge, and it did not, everything that was manufactured or introduced in that scale was all running down the same size track, which is 45 millimeter. When several of us were narrow gaugers trying to get into this large scale, we ended up with 120 scale. And ironically, measurements made that 3-foot narrow gauge, ironically. So then we just built backwards up and built a standard gauge and dual gauge to go with it. These two pictures are representing that. Everything that we did originally in this is all scratch built. Bob Hartford, along with many others, saw the intentions with this of where it seemed to be growing and started changing their modeling that they were doing in 122 and 124 scales and started changing their modeling up to 120 for 3-foot narrow gauge. And then we got on board with this as I got into this deeper and deeper. First thing we had to do is create the track. I went along with Gary Broder with his Logos Creek narrow gauge track he was doing. He was kind enough to send me one of his master molds for track work, and we went to China, made a mold, and I reproduced dual gauge and standard gauge plastic tie strips that matched his narrow gauge tie strips. So then between the two businesses, we could offer all the different gamuts of track work for, you know, quick building and laying track inside or outside. This truck here is the first truck assembly that any of us built for standard gauge, which is an early arch bar without brakes. It's got brakes now. The next picture there to the right of it shows an AMS narrow gauge boxcar, and then the monster beside it is a scratch built plastic urethane 36-foot outside brace boxcar to show you the difference in size in our scale, just like all the other narrow gauge guys can do in dual gauge. What I do is spin cast. And I took over quickly as I got into spin casting to support what I was doing in my part of the hobby. I came along with Alan Pollock, who also helped me since he was the president of the MRA to really push to create F scale as an actual true scale that was recognizable in the large scale market. But I was already doing spin casting with Bob Hartford and a few others. I took over Jeff Saxton's line of castings first and added that to my line, and then eventually started taking over more and more of Bob Hartford's line. Even though he sold his business to Ozark Miniature back in 2014, he had a contingency with them that they had 2 years to get it off the ground and get going with it, which they've really, to today, still really haven't done much with it. Bob got ill, and then Bob started losing his eyesight. And he called me up about 2 years ago and asked me if I would take over the remains of Hartford Products, which we did. And I took him and everything his estate still had that he kept in his private collection to Knoxville. And I am gradually, as I have time, because I'm a one-man band, going through the creation and recreation of as much of the Hartford line of equipment that Bob originally had. We're going through things that I see from feedback I'm getting from many customers that are even on this site that are innocently giving me feedback on what they're interested in, and then looking at is what can we really afford to reproduce and bring back out. But my biggest goal is I've got over 3,000 castings in my shop now. My goal is to get all of those castings, even if they go to an individual kit online for sale with pictures. And that represents the 500 molds that I now have in my shop to support those castings. We've got all the paper products, in other words, all the drawings, instructions, and everything to these kits, and some kits that we're actually developing right now ourselves to bring out and put on the market, which the ones that we're interested in are small stuff for me, for my own personal railroad, because I'm in-house in my basement of my home. I model a 1934 3-foot narrow gauge that used to be here in East Tennessee and North Carolina for operations is what we're basing our standards on. So it's small stuff. So we're building the early DNRG line of the 1880 rolling stock, which is a boxcar. There is a powder car, there's a stock car, and there is a fruit car, which is an early reefer. And we just got done finishing the development of the Jackson and Sharp 4-foot 4-inch truck assembly. That's the real one is actually out at the Colorado Railroad Museum that you guys would see in Denver if you're out there at the show. We just got done building that as a model to go underneath this fruit car once we get it finished completely. And they're close. We're also doing the DSP&P line of cars, which you'll see pictures here. And this is I've got here coming up in different slides of cars that we've got in the line that we are bringing back out. But the main goal is to have all the paper products, the drawings, the instructions, all of that will be available for sale through the shop, all the castings, and then I'm going to be bringing back out at least all of the castings to every kit that Bob has done, and some that he produced but never did bring out. We've got there's 2 or 3 different cars that he had in the works, but he never got around to bringing them out. I feel that they need to be brought out. And we've also got into 3D printing because to me, it just makes sense of the size of our stuff is in FN3. You can get so much quality as far as detail goes with utilizing 3D printing for some of the plastic things that I was doing on 2-part epoxies before. We can do them cheaper, more believable and the detail with them, and you'll see that in some slides to come up too. Okay, Pete. This picture here and coming up here, these are shots of my shop on the inside. Somebody before we started this, when we got online here this evening, asked, how I store them. Well, here's how I store them. I've got racks that I've built to hold all the molds. The molds are all numbered on the edge of the mold. And every one of these different bins is a different casting. It goes to a specific car model, or if you've ever been to my website, there's 27 different categories of castings, and these are all listed in my shop as categories to represent those castings. And it's soon to be growing to 30 or 33 more categories, setting you out to, hopefully to get you quicker to what you're looking for in your interest of castings that you want to do. I've gotten so busy with casting work and working with the Hartford stuff. I think that's the best place for me to go with the business. And I know I'm kind of known for doing custom builds and weathering and detailing and painting. And I believe I'm going to have to probably back myself back out of doing that because I can't wear all these hats and be successful with any of this. And I really honestly don't want to see the Hartford line disappear. I think it's valuable for large scale trains in the market. And I just want to make sure that that happens. So that's really the push of my goal with this. This is a mold that we're working on for, I've got several of the guys that are owners of businesses in F scale or around F scale, and they come to me for all their castings now and have, and that list of people, customers is growing as well. These are for Jay Kovac, the train department. He does a lot of live steam stuff. He was out in New Jersey. Now he has moved down to North Carolina. And this is a mold for some some coupler boxes for him. This is just another shot. I'm a master carpenter. By trade, I was a general contractor for years, and this was my hobby I did on the side. And this was my wood shop, and you can see the table saw, which is also a workbench for me most of the time. But we can mill, and I still do. So people come to me if they need mass quantities of tie strips or tie plates or parts made for any kind of a bridge assembly or a trestle bench or what have you. I still offer and do that. I make gauges in wood. We make radius curves for people for land track, and it just kind of goes on and on from there. This is how I paint the ends of the molds to put a number on it after I've made. That's a whole stack of brand new molds that I made just this past month. To give you an idea that, yes, we're rapidly moving through the Hartford line. When I bought Bob out, I took over a lot of molds, but most of them were well-used molds. So as I go through each kit, as we progress through it, if I find I'm not happy with the casting, then I'm going to assume that you're not going to be happy with it either. And I want you to be happy with the castings I sell. So we make brand new masters, have them 3D printed, and then I make new molds to represent the part. And then this is part of that process, is making the molds, numbering them to fit the category, and goes to that. So this slide is just an introduction to a short list of things that we do here. But as I said, as I'm starting to back a little bit out of some of this, just because I cannot do it all and keep up with the orders that I get every day. Woodworking, like I just said, special cuts, angles, dado, notching. If you don't have a shop that you can manufacture your own, we do that. All of this stuff is all custom order stuff, so it's negotiable by contract, by any project that you might have. If you want to give me a call, I'd sure at least give you an estimate for it, for what it would cost to do it. Bob Hartford's line of decals are available. So any of you that might be even just needing the original decal sets that would fit a large scale train model, I have access to them. And eventually I'm going to have a category that will just be for decals too, that go with any of those cars. And then of course the cars that we're bringing out ourselves too. This is the latest 3D printing job that we did. Bob had 3 different stoves that went in various cars that he made and sold, and they were all done in plastic urethane. And as you can see, the detail that we can get in making these into kits, assemblies, the doors can be opened, closed, they're hollow. You could put LEDs inside of them if you wanted to. If it has a drawer on the bottom, we made the drawers as a separate piece that can slide in and out. We've added extra details from models and drawings that we've gotten of original ones that represented these. And I think these will make really good models. I don't have a price on them yet, but I think they'll be reasonable from what I've seen in the market. And this is our latest model. Bob and I, back when Bob brought out his Frick, he and I went out in the field. I took him around because he was unallowed to drive at the time when he brought his Frick assembly out. But I'm actually the guy that took him in the field, helped me measure Fricks here in the East Tennessee and North Carolina at a couple of the outside museums. And anyhow, we have redone it because I thought this thing could easily be made as a stationary set. You could make this actually work. So you can put, we made ours as hollow. We added all the detail on it that came with the models with the brake rigging, and I think it's going to be a pretty good model. This should be available here in up here this spring. It's really available now. We haven't got the pricing done on it all the way yet, and we'll be bringing that on the site and on Facebook and the chat groups, and I'll be making the announcements with that when it's ready to go. This is pictures of some of the rolling stock that some of you might be familiar with. This is all Hartford stuff here. That's one of the 33 different truck assemblies. There's 2 more that we'll be having available eventually. Many of them I've already got done in the shops. We're dealing with wheels is actually, in our scale, is potentially becoming an issue for supply. train department still has all the Sierra Valley wheels when Sierra Valley went out of business, but his quantities are quickly diminishing. And so I've been hesitant to bring stuff out yet, but many of these are available. So if any of you are interested in trucks right now, I would not wait for me to post them. I would give me a call or email me and let me know what you're looking for. And I might have your truck assembly available. This is one of the DSPMP line of cars I was talking about that we are remanufacturing right now. I'm finishing up all the new castings, making sure that I have good castings for all of these cars. And then we will be issuing those. Those will be coming out here this spring as well. This is the way car. I'm actually scratch building this for one of my customers. And that's as far as I am on it so far. This is a Hartford. All the kits that Bob Hartford had are with a K number. So if it says K20, this is kit number 20. And as it says, this is a model, the 1500 series high side gondola, highly weathered and detailed. And this is one of the models I was talking about that Bob produced, but he never brought out. And this is a crew car. And this is the base assembly for it. And we've just got done making all the new castings that support it. And I am planning to bring this out once I get my laser people to go through the preliminaries on it. But this is a pretty basic car, as you can see. This is the DSPMP boxcar kit, K33. And this is DNRGW's K11, the 3000 series boxcar kit. I've got everything casting wise. The trucks are available. I don't have the laser cut parts made on it yet, but we will. And I believe then here's the caboose, K24, which is the 17-foot center cab DNRGW caboose. And we've got all the castings in inventory. I've got all the paperwork for it. And I've got a few laser cut kits that I inherited when I bought Bob out that he still had in his category of existing kits. But I don't have them for sale yet. This is the K22 Southern box. It's a ventilated boxcar kit, highly weathered. And one of the many log car kits that we have here, this K13, the Eli Thomas log car kit. And all the log cars are available right now. They're not on my website. So please, if you're interested in something like this, give me a holler. And we just got done finishing this right now too, this past week. All the castings are available. The kits are at the laser shop being developed right now. And I've got a couple of these as demonstrators, but we should have these in inventory. We're also making a separate boom assembly that could be mounted on a platform next to a building or a warehouse instead of being on the car, but the car kit itself will be available here pretty soon. And this is all my contact information. So you can email me, check the website out, give me a phone call. I'm on the East Coast and I try to answer the phone Monday through Saturday. If I don't answer, please leave me a message. I try to get back to everybody within reason, time. I'm a grandpa, and this business I run by myself, and all of my kids and grandkids do not live in town. So I'm on the road a bit just doing that. During the week, I'm home most of the time. Many of you guys I talk to pretty often. And so I hope that I'm pretty easy to get a hold of.
Any other
I
questions?
have a question.
Go ahead.
Don, is that 3D print that you do a special high temperature plastic so you can do those molds?
Yeah, that's a great question. And yes, it has to be. And I don't do that part of it. So I sub that out. I've got two different guys here in the States that do my 3D printing for me. And yes, and that was an evolution for all of us because it has to cook in a mold at 315 degrees for an hour. So I don't mind if it cooks it. Some of the plastics we found cook, they hold themselves together to make the mold, But then when I peel the masters out of the mold, they disintegrate and come out in miniature pieces of plastic. So then I lose the master. But we've recently found some white plastics that we're really having good success on. And they're actually strong enough that they're even surviving vulcanization, which is wonderful. But
Do you know what the brand names are, Don?
no, but I can sure get that from the guys that I work with. But you'll have to call me back during the week or email me is the best way for something like that. And then I can return the email back with the information you're needing.
Sounds
Okay.
great. Thank you.
You're
Are
welcome.
there any other? Go ahead.
This Alan, you mentioned a couple times about needing to back away from building and weathering. And you can
Yes.
say that as soon as you get my cars done.
Okay, Alan, you got it. All right, just don't tell anybody else, okay?
Okay, thanks a lot, Don. We really appreciate it. It was a great presentation. You have a very interesting product line.